Hello. Back to the Future. Back to the Future and the chart of Lorraine. Okay. This is my decode chart that I use quite a bit. If you're new here, this is just made up of Fibonacci type sequences, all amalgamated into one chart. And there's some interesting patterns and interesting numbers that kind of correspond with one another in here. You know, if you're old school on the channel, you know, I use this in quite a lot of my decodes, or I refer back to it quite a lot of the time. So what do I want to say about this thing? 88 FINIS TEMORIS just did a video on the double cross. He was picking out some double cross symbolisms in a couple of films, and I'll put the link to that in the description. But what I want to do is I want to talk about the double cross in here first in my chart of Lorraine, because the name that I gave to this chart is the double cross of Lorraine, okay? Which the cross of Lorraine looks quite a little bit like has a similarity to the Leviathan cross as well, okay? So, but I just chose the cross of Lorraine. I don't know whether I might have chosen it, I can't really remember now, but I definitely chose it because of the cross of Lorraine, that French, I think she was a French chick, and that symbolism was, let me just draw it right here, was a cross that looks like this, okay, and that thing there, obviously, it kind of has an orthodox cross feel about it as well, okay. So the double cross thing is, you know, it's out there, but the reason why I chose that is you can see what I've got highlighted in red on the chart right now. This and these two right here, okay, those are that's the double cross of Lorraine that's in here, okay. That was the symbolism that I picked out. You know, this 29 here, that is the number that should really be, it's the number that fits right between these two numbers here, okay. It's the amalgamation of 11 and 18, okay. So this is really where it's the head of the cross. When you flip it up the correct way, it's also the heart of the cross as well. So it's pretty interesting. And we've got the twin towers here as well, okay. The metaphysical tower, Mary, and the physical tower, Christ, okay. The sun and the moon, or the moon and the sun, should I say it around that way? And so, you know, and of course we have the character Lorraine in Back to the Future, which is, it's kind of cool because if we look down here for the two totals for these two columns, okay, we have 55, yeah, the year that Marty goes back to, 1955, and we have the 88, okay. So this is the total for each of these individual columns, okay. So the 55 and the 88 miles an hour, and this is one of the things that kind of really locked me into looking at this more, was the fact that these two numbers popped up for two important, you know, columns here, because these two columns represent each side of reality, you know, the metaphysical and the physical side of reality, okay. Where do I want to go with this now? Okay, let's get rid of this stuff so we can make it a little bit easier to understand. So that's that thing taken care of. I also want you to note that at the bottom of this cross is 213. So this cross is extremely important. Maybe Lorraine is named Lorraine because of this, you know. I don't know. Maybe that is the reason why they picked the name Lorraine and the DeLorean, yeah. All, you know, similar sounding, different versions of one another. Okay, so let's get rid of that a minute. We got the next symbol in here that I talk about and I've used before in my decodes, which is, we're looking at the blue cross here. That cross, technically it should be a white cross on a blue background, but I've got it written in here like that, drawn in like this, just to represent it. This is the cross of St. Andrew. Okay, this cross is It's encoded into the dollar bill, St. Andrew's Day, which is interesting. That also ties in with Billy Idol. You know, Bill, Doll. Yeah, the bill of the $1, Billy Idol. And there's a bunch of stuff with Billy Idol. But getting sidetracked here. But the 30th of November is an important day. We can take this and do a cross-reference in the chart with 3 and 11. Okay, so again, the 30th of November, a 311 numerology. And we can come to this point here, like a times table chart, and we've got 254. The 254th day of the year is 9/11. Okay, so we can start, you know, cross-referencing numbers backwards and forwards here. And like I say, we always go around in circles. But this 30th of November, the Great Scott, there's also a whole bunch of other numbers that we can pick out that tie to this cross. Like we can pick, this cross actually goes to this is the center point of the cross here, this 11. Okay, and so we can split off an 11. We can split it off as a 1. We can change that 11 to a 1. Okay, and we can split this number off and we can get a 187 here, an important number. We can also get a 791, which also ties back to 9/11 with the 911th prime number. I think is like something like 7. I can't remember what it is now. I think it's like 7,901 or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, that ties back into 9/11. What else we got in here? We've also got this number here. We can split this off, which is 313, which is an interesting number in something that's just happened in my life. Ties back to this again, and in fact, you know, I've got family members that have got this number as well. And then we've got these numbers down here as well. Okay, and I know it's getting difficult to see that because I'm drawing over it a bit too much there, but you know, we've got 133 again. 133 as well is the 13 and the 3. Yeah, and 13 and 3 is M and C, Mary and Christ. You know, I mean, it's all nice little tie-ins here. And of course, this bunch of numbers here, we've got numbers that tie into the Vesica Pisces. We've got numbers that tie into the start of the cycle. We've got numbers that tie into 666, 2/3, you know. We've got numbers that tie into another date that I'm looking at, which is Super Bowl Sunday. You know, we can pick, you know, just go to that first number there, and we've got this 11, this 211, which happens to balance across with this 911. Okay, so we've got tons of little numbers here that we can pick out on the cross, on the Great Scott. We have an interesting number jump from, we have several other interesting number jumps, which I'm not going to go into because otherwise this video is going to be too long, right? But if you're old school and been here for a while, you'll already know those number jumps or have heard me talk about them before. So let's get rid of the Great Scott. Okay, another important reference in Back to the Future with Doc going on about the Great Scott all day long. The Great Scott, for me, there's multiple meanings to that. There's tons of different meanings to the Great Scott, but one of those meanings is the cross of St. Andrew, the Great Scott, St. Andrew. Okay, so get off of that. Okay, next one in. We've got the clock tower. This is the Eye of Providence, okay, or the clock tower, the top of the clock tower, okay, you know, fill this bottom part in, stick some columns here, and we've got the clock tower, okay. We've got the clock right here. So the first thing to note is, let's start at the top and work down. We've got the 55 at the top of this thing, and if we stylize the number 55, okay, there's a 5, there's a 5, and we've got a bolt of lightning coming down, hitting the top of the clock tower. Okay, so that's the first thing that we can see there. Second thing we've got going on, we're back to 1955 when this whole thing is set. Okay, so that's something to note. Okay, when did Doc invent time travel? And you know, this is the point at which the lightning hits the conductor. Okay, and time travel happens. And again, Doc invents time travel on the 5th of November. Okay, What else we got here? We've got the clock face, 10:04. The clock face at 10:04. We've got a 14 here representing that. We've just taken the zeros out. We've just ignored the zeros. Okay, we can do that in numerology. The lightning comes down, it hits the wire, and the wire travels this way over to a lamppost. Okay, it's traveling across and showing us this. It's going across the 911 right here. And as I was just saying, there's another number that balances with that 911, which is this 211 right here, which is just coming up with the Super Bowl. So that'll be interesting. What else have we got in here? More on the subject of the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes' birthday is here as well. Oh, blimey hell, Dan. I hate this mouse. Okay, so there's Patrick Mahomes' birthday right there. So I kind of expect, with the arrowhead symbolism of the Chiefs, I kind of expect the Chiefs to be there. I know people have been saying it's going to be the 49ers versus the Ravens, but actually, I kind of like the Chiefs versus the Lions. The Lions have got the right coloration for this, the metaphysical, and the physical coming back together. So I kind of like the Lions. And obviously, we've got like the mountain lion, sort of puma. What are they? I don't know what they are. Jaguars? Mountain. Anyway, you know what these are? These are the foo dogs right here. And it's the same at the Hoover Dam. There's the two angels, the winged angels, which have the wings open, rather than coming along over like the cherubim, or whatever the hell those things are called on the Ark of the Covenant. They've got the wings straight up. And what that does is it causes them to look like Anubis and Wepawep. And those two, obviously they're the dog-headed gods that guard the underworld, so to speak, or, ferry the dead or take care of the dead. And again, the dead, those two things aren't balanced though. They're not, the wings of the angels aren't touching, they're open. Okay, and so what is the other side of there is the dead. Okay, people that aren't living anymore in the Hoover Dam, so to speak, metaphorically speaking. So we got the two dogs here, like the foo lions, like the lions that are at the Lion's Gate for Marty's, where he lives on his estate there. Which, when he goes back to 1955, are just the estate hasn't even been done yet. It's still, the gates are still kind of open there. That idea hasn't been realized yet in 1955. Okay, but those foo dogs, they show up in all kind. I'm thinking like Ghostbusters as well. We have the two dog, whatever those beastly creatures are, that Sigourney and whatever his name is, I can't remember his name. Okay, doesn't matter anyway. That turn into, and what else have we got going on with it? I think there's a couple other references. Anyway, those things, the cats, the two cats, the two dogs, whatever they are, the two lions, the two beasties that guard the gate. Okay. And anyway, we have them there, and again we've got the 13 and the 33, Mary and Christ again. So this is interesting with those two numbers. What else have we got going on? Oh yeah, with the Super Bowl, the 14th of October, because this is obviously pointing to the 10 as well, and obviously we get 10:04, the 4th of October, from this as well. But the 14th of October, obviously, is, what was that to do? Was that Usher's birthday? I think that might have been, I can't remember now. I think it was Usher's birthday. Well, anyway, Usher had something to do with the 14th of October. Obviously, Madonna started her tour on the 14th of October. And I want to say Goff on the playing there, the quarterback for the Lions, is 14th of October as well. Birthday. I can't remember all these numbers, guys. It's just too much for my little brain to cope with. What else we got going on? So we've got that going on. On the flyer that Marty gets, Save the Clock Tower flyer, that little blue flyer that he gets, there is a newspaper article. That newspaper article is printed. It is for the 14th of October. Okay. What else was going to say about that? The clock itself, this clock starts running, you know, back in 1885 or whenever they go back to. It starts running on the 5th of September. That's when they have the dance and the clock starts running. You know, I mean, this has got to be more than a coincidence here. Okay, it's got to be. The Hoover Dam. I was talking about the Hoover Dam the other day with these numbers. We've got some Hoover Dam numbers here when the Hoover Dam was handed over to the federal government, and we've got the Hoover Dam was completed numbers in here. We can pick those numbers out of these two sets. You know, that's mental. What else have we got? I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff here. I want to say, what do I want to say? I want to say about the thing that Lambda found the other day, Lambda 115, or at least he put a video out about it the other day. He was talking about the start and the reset of Fibonacci numbers. There's a cycle within Fibonacci numbers. If you reduce each of these numbers down, what will happen is, you know, this is a 4. You know, if we reduce this 13 down, it's a 4. If we reduce this 21 down, it's a 3. I can't write 3. If we reduce this 34 down, it's a 7. Okay, and what happens is, as you do this through Fibonacci numbers, you come back to a point at which the cycle starts over again, okay? And you'll get back to the cycle starts over at 911. You know, this is the switchover point for the cycle to start again. As you can see, it starts on the number 11 here. So this 0 here, you could actually write that as a 9, because this is the next, you know, if you were going around in a cycle, okay, and you were reducing Fibonacci down completely. So this is important, because what I was wanting to say was, anyway, about that reducing, is that if you look where the clock hands are pointing, okay, there's a marker here between 9 and 10. And that hand, this is like the cycle of Fibonacci numbers right here, you know. This is the start here, and it goes around and comes back to the end here. Okay, so it was just interesting that clock, I don't know if I mentioned that last time, but this one hand is pointing to the number 10, which is between these two numbers, which is actually, that point there is the beginning and the end. I don't think Lambda made that connection, that, you know, that the fact that the number 10 is between, and we're having all this X symbolism now, and that is between 9 and 11, and we can sort of infer that the number 10 is between, you know, this 911, but, you know, between the cycle of Fibonacci numbers, yeah. The point where that resets is the number 10. I just thought that was kind of interesting to point out. Maybe that's pointing out, stating the obvious there, I don't know, but you know, so instead of just having a line between those two numbers for the start and the finish, we can also say that line could be the number 10. No? And they could be indicating that as well with this idea of the clock cycle here as well, starting and ending with. So again, what that is interesting is, with the start and the finish, this crossover point here is, of course, the start of a new cycle is this number right here, 112. The 11th of February, maybe, coming right before this number here. And if we want to find the balance number between our Lucas numbers, which is the across the Lorraine, the L again, and we want to use Fibonacci and Lucas numbers to find that balance, you know, what's the balance between those two sets of numbers, between those two rows? Well, guess what it is? if I do an average here, this is 1, this is 2. So I'm just looking at like the 1 and the 3 here, and I'm taking the average. So add those two together, divide by 2. So 1 plus 3 is 4, divide by 2 is 2, yeah? What's between these two? These add up to 6, it's 3. And I think you'll see the pattern straight away. What's this? This is 10, half of 10 is 5. Okay? And what we have is that the numbers that balance both Lucas and Fibonacci are Fibonacci. It's a bit like, it's fascinating because it's a bit like the metaphysical column, yeah? You know, what balances between the physical and the metaphysical? You know, we should be looking at a row here, shouldn't we, Dan? You know, this should be the center of this arrowhead right down the middle of here. Well, guess what? You know, a lot of these numbers that are in here are the balance numbers between these two things. Like what's the number between 5 and 6 is 5.5, 55 again, you know. So this is, you know, and what's the number between, and if we expand out and double these two numbers here to 10 and 12, you know, what's the number that balances between 10 and 12? Okay, it's the number 11, you know, the number 11. So you're going to see that the metaphysical column has the numbers in it already that are actually balancing between both metaphysical and physical, if you get what I'm saying there. Anyway, what else have I got here? Because this was supposed to be a short video and I got to get on with some work. One last thing to go through. Oh, here's another thing. Look, let me click off of this. This is the scene where Jennifer has just written on the back of the flyer her grandmother's telephone number, so that Marty can call. 55548. There's the 48 for this year. 23. So we've just gone out of 2023, and now we're going into this year here, 2024. But what's happening is this number is important in 2024. Anyway, where does that show up in here? Well, here's the 55. So anyway, let's write the number down. 555. Okay. What was it? 4823. Sorry, that was painful. I have to do that slowly because I just can't write quick with this mouse. So 555. So we got the 55. That was pretty easy, but we're missing 15. Well, you know, if you're gonna, I guess they could have done 551 if they'd really wanted to, but maybe that would have been a little bit too obvious. So we've got 55, and I'll tell you, there's very interesting about this. I'll tell you in just a second. And then we've got the 48, and let's get the 4. We've got, hang on a minute. Let me just go through the 1 there because we don't need that right now. So we've got the 4 there. We've got the 2, 3. Oh, we're missing the 8. Okay, what is interesting is this hand is pointing off towards the 18 there. So that is kind of interesting. But we're missing the 8 as well. So, but what's interesting about that is the year that we are starting in is 1985. Okay, and again, 85 is right here. Okay, so that is kind of interesting that these numbers are just right here, and we've got the 423, but they've inserted an 8 here. Now, what is interesting about inserting an 8 at this point is that it makes two numbers. Let me write them up here. It makes 482. Okay. Now, what's 482? Read it backwards. It's the wow. I don't know about read it back. Yeah. It's 4. No, it's 248. What we actually wanted. Don't read it backwards, but just look at what it is. 200. Write it right first, Dan. Hang on a minute. 248 is our Pluto orbit, okay, and then obviously the 48 that's in here, the 48 is the day that the cross occurs, okay, the eclipse, okay. So It's interesting that they've chosen that point to it and chosen to insert the number 8 there. I think that's, you know, I'm not quite sure. I think I'm not quite sure why they went with the number 5, apart from the fact that 85 ties back in with the, the 85 year of the movie, and this 85 here, which again is to do with balance. Okay, and obviously it's, we're in Fibonacci numbers there. Okay, so this is important as well. So again, I thought that was super duper interesting. Was there anything else in here? The only other thing to note is that we've got the, let me get rid of all this, otherwise we'll be getting all confused. What I've got up here as well is I've got an amalgamation of, if you put a cross in here now, okay, what I've done is I've amalgamated the numbers on each point of that cross. So here's the, we've got the 11 here, I've got an 11 up here. I've got the 20 from down here, we've got the 20 here. I've got the 9 from over here, I got the 9 here. I got the 23 from here, I got the 23 here. We've got, over on this stuff, we've got the blue numbers are dartboard numbers, 20, 11, 3, and 6. This is where these numbers would appear on the dartboard. And of course the bullseye is 50, and the bullseye here is 14. So these are numbers to look for. What's at the top of this thing with the amalgamation of the two eyes, the amalgamation of the two crosses of the dartboard and this thing. And, to be quite honest, I'm wondering if the dartboard is actually numbered because of, these numbers, this is the top of the dartboard. This is one corner of the dartboard. This is up and down on the dartboard. And the 6 is another corner of the dartboard. So it's kind of interesting that it's kind of it's the same numbers basically. I mean, again, that may be deliberately done. I don't know why that's like that, but it is interesting. But anyway, we can pick out some interesting numbers here. This is Who's That Girl? You won't find that reference anymore. They've changed it. Here again is up and down on the dartboard. Here, and obviously the 23 is super important. What else have we got here? Here's our date for the Super Bowl this year. Okay, and here is 9/11 here. And also, one other thing to note about Marty saying in the morning, that 25, that always bugs me, is in the morning, the 25 minutes late, the clocks are running off 25 minutes. Doc's changed all his clocks, and then that makes Marty late for school. And so there's this 8 o'clock through to 8:25. So this is 25 minutes. And 25, obviously, if we just talk about it in normal mathematics, 0.25 is a quarter. Okay? So there's this idea of being a quarter off. Okay? And what is this here? This is a quarter of the cycle. If you go all the way around this thing, this is a quarter right here. Or vice versa this way. So, I don't know. This is kind of interesting. And what's interesting about this is, this is the clock here. Look at the two numbers in the middle, or the number 12 can be picked out of there. So this is kind of interesting. You can kind of fudge this 2, 3 to be a 6. Obviously it's 6, 6, 6, and obviously 2, 3 is a 6. So this isn't a stretch. So this is obviously 9 o'clock on a normal clock, and obviously we've managed to get a 3 in here as well. So we can pick out the numbers of the clock face in here as well, which is kind of interesting. Albeit slightly, we have to slightly fudge the 6, I would say, more than anything. We can't just pick that number straight out. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I think that's pretty much covered it. I don't think I've forgotten anything, but again, the double cross. What I'll say about the double cross is the double cross is a bittersweet thing. Yeah, the double cross is you think things are going good, which is going into the matrix. You think it's all wonderful, and then it turns out to be not so good. It turns out to be a double cross. It turns out that you've been tricked. But that whole process reverses itself, so the double cross becomes sweet again because you've become aware of the double cross. You've become aware of the trick. Now you know the trick. Now you can't be tricked anymore. You know, you've been enlightened through that process of being fooled. Okay? And so the double cross, depending on the way you look at it, and depending on the point at which you are taking part in the double cross, that is the point in which it's a good or a bad thing. You know, it's the duality of everything. You know, if you can find the balance, you know, at the center of the double cross and remain at that point, if you can find the Holy Trinity, you're golden at that point. You're set. You know, you're perfect. Okay, you're balanced. So that's the double cross and how it ties back with the clock tower and all the other junk that's in here for Back to the Future. It's just mental. You know, I will say just two more things. Don't forget that there are the things in here like the Queen, you know, Queen Elizabeth's birthday, the King's birthday. Here's that plutonium reference again, right here on each side of this thing. And for the table in general, if you're new here and have just clicked on this video, there are lots of interesting numbers. We can look at the 11 column here, and you can just go through here. Queenie's death. Obviously, Queenie's birthday ties into 9/11. Obviously, Queenie's funeral. You know, the numbers, there's tons and tons of important stuff in here. Tons of important stuff. You know, top of the dartboard, those numbers are right here, you know, with a cross reference again to 2213. Yeah, to the start of this cycle. You know, I can't emphasize enough that the start of this cycle and the start of this cycle are tied together. In the dollar bill, 100, it's getting a mess, but 155 days, that's right here, takes us from 9/11. Okay, we can go from 9/11, we go over a 155-day jump, and it will take us to this day here. In the dollar bill. It's encoded in the dollar bill. It's right there. Okay? So, it's going to be an interesting few days surrounding the 11th of November, the 11th of February and the 13th of February. Those days within there are going to be very, very, very interesting, to say the least. Okay? Obviously, I don't know what else to say about it. I'm going to leave it there, otherwise the video is way too long. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on another one here pretty soon. Alright, cheers. Bye. So, just a little bonus on the end. I forgot to mention 2 or 3 other things, really. I just sat through the video and I was like, oh, forgot that, and forgot that. So I just go back through it. A couple of things to re-mention is, again, with the cross of St. Andrew, we can also pick out, not very straight down, but we can pick out, you know, this set of numbers here. And there was a, let me show you the number jump. Okay, from September the 11th, 2001, if we go 8,190 days, where we're at is the 13th of February 2024. Okay, so that set of numbers there, just stick the 0 in, it will take you to, this will take you back to the start here. Okay, so that was interesting. And what we have crossing with that set of numbers again is this set of numbers, 213. Okay, and also, again, back to this thing here, and again, also, you know, again, that 311 there for 9/11, and also the part of that number was 211 as well. Okay, so I just wanted to I don't know if that really clarifies it, but just try and re-clarify it a little bit. A couple of other things. When we look at the clock here and we look at the actual, the 10 is over here, but the 4 is actually more likely to be pointing just a little bit further up, and it does kind of point to this point here, like a cross. And again, the number 4 is like a cross, So I just thought that was kind of interesting as well. I forgot to mention that. And of course, that is the balance point of the table, the place where the cross is, on the table. So that, again, it's just interesting, right? Another interesting thing, Clayton Ravine. In number 3, when they get the clock started and going on 5/9, they're trying to get back, and the whole thing of Clayton Ravine is brought up. They're in the Wild West, okay? And now, if we think of Wild West actors, or we think of Wild West shows and things like that, one of those shows that springs to mind is The Lone Ranger. And I did a decode on that film with Johnny Depp in it, and there's a ton of damn destruction references in there. It's just mental. Okay, but more mental than that is this idea of Clayton Ravine, and the actor that plays the Lone Ranger, his name is Clayton Moore. Okay, and Clayton Moore, his birthday happens to be the 14th of September, and it happens to be the 14th of September 1914. So I mean, if that isn't the bloody, I've got some other Clayton references as well, but if that isn't a reference to the Clayton Ravine thing, I don't know what is, That's just mental as well. So I just wanted to mention those few things. One other thing that I forgot to mention is on that newspaper article that is on the flyer, on the leaflet for Save the Clock Tower, the Roman numerals on there obviously pick out a number 17. And there's also a number 23 with the volume. I think it's the volume of it, volume 23. So these two numbers are also showing up on there. And there probably is some more stuff on the actual newspaper article in there, but I just can't read it at the minute. I've got to get a better image of it before I can really tuck into that one. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention those other couple of things there. All right, thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.